to trust our Father, to trust His ability. Trust that by the time He puts these things in you, by the time He has called you to serve, by the time He has called you to teach, by the time He has called you to, minister in any sphere of life, He has given you the ability to do that, and He is with you. So you don't allow the fear to lead you. Truth Corner Bible Study aims at leading people into their freedom through the knowledge of the Word of God. John 8:32, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Hi everyone, welcome to today's Bible study. This is Harriet, and we'll go straight into the Word. Today we'll be reading from the book of Matthew 25, from verse 14 to 30, and this is the story of the parable of the talents. The parable of the talents starts from verse 14, which says, for it is like a man who was about to take a long journey, and he called his servants together and entrusted them with his property. To one he gave 5 talents, So to one he gave 5, the other received 2 talents, and the other received 1 talent. So 16 says, he who received the 5 talents went at once and traded them, and gained 5 talents more. And likewise he who received the 2 talents also gained 2 more talents. But he who received the 1 talent went and dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came and bought him 5 more, saying, Master, you entrusted me 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 talents more. His master said to him, well done, you upright and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of much. Enter into and share the joy which your master enjoys. And 22 says, he who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. Here I have gained 2 talents more. His master said, well done, you upright. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of much. Enter into and share the joy which your master enjoys. 24 says, who had received 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a harsh and hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you have not winnowed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what? You have what is your own. But his master answered him, you wicked and lazy, idle servant. Did you indeed know that I reap where I have not sowed, and gather where I have not winnowed? Then you should have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received what was my own with interest. Interesting. So 28 it says, so take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. This parable, Jesus is telling them a story or a parable of a rich man who went on a journey and then entrusted these talents to his servants. To one he gave 5, to the other he gave 2, and to the other he gave 1. And by the time he came back, he started asking them, okay, so what did you do with my, the money that I left you with? And the one who was given 5 said, look, I invested your money and I gained much more, for like 5 times, or I gained more 5 talents. So in total, he had 10. And the one with 2 also said the same. But the one with 1, the one who had been entrusted with 1 talent said, I knew you to be a hard man. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. And here, get what belongs to you. So there is a lot to get from this parable. One in particular is the master appreciates the same way, like he gave the same appreciation to the 2 servants who had gained more, irrespective of the difference in the quantities that they had produced. One had gained more 5, the other had gained more 2, but he gave them the same appreciation, because God is aware that we are not all given equal talents. God is aware that we are all, for example, we as Christians, we are all given these gifts, but we are not endowed in the same quantities, with the same quantities. You know, you have been called to do something. I have been called to do something else. So, but the most important thing, when we all do our responsibilities, when we all put to use the gifts or the talents that the Father has blessed us with, we are all being appreciated the same way. The master said to the 2 servants, well done. You know, he told them, well done, you faithful and trustworthy servants. You were entrusted with little, and I will entrust you with more. He did not tell the one who had gained 5, oh, you have done so well, and the one who gained 2, oh, you have done good, but you should do better. Because he knows that he has gifted us with this quantity, but when you put to use whatever that he has gifted you with, he recognizes and appreciates that you have, used your gifts or your talents with. So, but to the one, my emphasis actually for this episode is the one servant who was given the talent, 1 talent, and then he went and hid. 24, he who had received 1 talent came forward saying, Master, I knew you to be a harsh and hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you had not winnowed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid the talent in the ground. I want to encourage you today, as you're watching this, do not let fear lead you. Do not be moved by fear. Don't be moved by fear. Fear does not lead you to anything good. Fear is of the devil. This guy, he put forward first this excuse so that he backs up whatever his fear had led him to do. He said, I knew you to be a harsh man. You know, of all the servants, how come it was only him who knew him to be a harsh man? Didn't know him, didn't know their master, but they moved, they acted. They became responsible of whatever that God had entrusted them. But this guy comes and says, I knew you to be a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you had not winnowed. So I was afraid. It is unfortunate that today, most of us Christians, we are moved by fear. We are moved by fear, even when God has directly told you, or not even directly, but you know in your heart that God has called you to do something. You know that God expects you to be someplace, or to do, put to use these talents that He has endorsed in your life. But you're like, what if this happens? This fear comes and shuts down whatever that you would have used to even move forward in that God has purposed for your life. And when you do that, you never get over, you cannot fail to find excuses. When you allow fear to lead you, you will not fail to get excuses to back up the fear. You will not fail. As long as you have let fear lead you, as long as you have heed the words of fear, which is the devil, the fear is of the devil. And any decision made out of fear is never a good decision. They also had these excuses. For example, if this master was really a harsh and hard man, they would have also went with that, Our master is not a good man, he's a hard man. But they went the other way. They did not base their decisions from the fears and the feelings that they had about their master. No, they knew this is a responsibility that we have been given. Our master has entrusted us with his money. It is upon us to make use of this money. It is upon us to make use of the money so that our master gets profits. You know, it is taking responsibility, not being led by fear, and then you go hid or you shut down whatever that the Father has put in you. There are different men of God that we read about in the Bible that when God called them, made manifest to them, or revealed to them the purpose for their life, you know, their lives, they responded with fear. They responded in fear. For example, Moses, when God told him that, you know, I want you to go lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, out of bondage, his first response was, how? How will I do that? I can't do it. I am a stammerer. I can't do this, you know. And take an example of Jonah. He had even to run and go hide. He thought he would, you know, run away from God. Joshua, by the time God tells him, I will be with you the way I was with Moses, I'll never leave you, he encouraged him because he had responded with fear. The good thing is they overcame this fear. They didn't allow the fear to lead them. You know, like this servant we see, he gave heed to that fear that he felt. You know, he gave heed to it to the extent that he had to go and hide the talent, dug a hole and hide it. You know, these other men that I have told you about, for them, yes, fear was there, but when God spoke to them, they did not give their attention to fear anymore. They trusted God over their fears. And that is what we are supposed to do as Christians. To trust our Father, to trust his ability. Trust that by the time he puts these things in you, by the time he has called you to serve, by the time he has called you to teach, by the time he has called you to, you know, minister in any sphere of life, he has given you the ability to do that. And he is with you. So you don't allow the fear to lead you. Make you hide whatever that God has gifted you with. Because it won't profit you anything. When he comes back and he expects you to give account of what he has blessed you with, the same way, the same response he gave to this servant, you know. But his master answered him, you wicked and lazy idle servant. Did you indeed know that I reap where I have not sowed and gather where I have not withered? So it's like if this servant knew that really the master was a hard man, he reaps where he he reaps where he didn't sow, and then he gathers where he didn't, you know. Why didn't he go ahead to at least do something with this talent so that his master, you know, gets his way? Because he knows that is how he earns, you know. That is how we pretend that we know God. You know, I know God, so I won't do this. He's a harsh God because, you know, we have gotten this mentality where we relate to God in a very legalistic way, point of view. You know that because you think, and maybe you have been taught this over time, that, you know, God is out here looking for you, you know. In case you sin, you're gone. If you do a mistake, then he's done with you. But again, you go ahead and do the same stuff that you know that God hates. So if you knew he hates them, why do you then do them? It is that, you know, it is that we are seeing in this parable. If he knew that the master was a harsh guy, a hard man, then he, you know, he reaps where he didn't sow. Why didn't you go ahead and sow the talent so that the master gets his way or anyways? Because that is how he does his business. When you relate with God from the point of fear, from the point of this legalistic point of view, it won't profit you anything. It will not lead you to do the Father's will. It will not. It is after, and it is from the point of love, where you fall in love with your master, that you do what he expects you to do. Because you know you love your master. And you can do anything to profit your master. So yeah, you can do, and you are willing to give, to lay your life down, to do whatever it takes for your master to profit, for the kingdom of God to go further, for this gospel to go to the ends of the earth, because you have come to understand, the love of the Father for you, and you have come also to love this Father. Fear will not lead you to anything. Doing things out of fear won't lead you to reap any fruit. It is actually fruitless. Living out of fear or serving God out of fear does not profit you anything. It doesn't even profit God anything. The most important thing is that you move past your fear. Refuse to be moved by fear. Realize God's presence in your life. You know, He is with you. Has He called you to do certain stuff? He is with you. Has He called you to lead that organization? He is with you. Recognize His presence in your life. Recognize His presence. He said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. He said that He won't start now. He won't. Fear focuses you on you. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but fear, that is what fear does. It makes you self-centered, self-aware. Which awareness even isn't right, because He focuses you on your flesh. He focuses you on the carnal you. You know? Do you really think that, you know, how can you think that you can lead this organization? How do you think that you will sit before people and then share this word? Who do you think will listen to you? That is what fear does. He focuses you, on your shortcomings, on what you're not good at, on how will you sing. That is what fear does. So you need to move past that and not focus on what concerns you, but what concerns the kingdom, the Great Commission that the Father gave us. Actually, God will never force you. The way the master didn't force him to produce more than what He had given him, God will not force us. You have this in you. The Father expects you to do this. Actually, that also happens after you have been willing to know your purpose. You know, we all have given purposes. We've been given purposes for our lives. Some of us, yes, you will go, and not like you're going to seek it or what, but you will go before God to know what He has created you for. That is a very small percentage of Christians that do that. But when you do, then you come to know your purpose. Again, a very small percentage. Go ahead to fulfill that purpose. Because most of the time, it is that fear that comes and you're like, okay, this is huge, this is big. How will I do that? How can I do that? Let me give you a testimony. When God told me to do this, this sharing, and the first time I heard it, I was like, no way, this can't be me. How will I do that? How? Of all the people, I couldn't get to my mind how I would be able to do this. For some time I would be like, no, that is not me. I am not someone who goes before the lights, before the cameras, and that is not me. As time passed by and I kept hearing it, and then I had to give in to that God had called me to do. I had to trust that He is with me. I had to go beyond the fears. I had to go beyond those fears of whatsoever, of what people will say, of who will not take it the right way, I had to go beyond that. I had to stop looking at what concerned me. I had excuses, trust me. I had excuses. I have little babies. I have this. How will I do this? The resources. I had excuses. But I had to go beyond those excuses and really focus on what the Father has called me to do. Focus on how it will benefit the kingdom. Focus on the great commission that God has given us. Because of that, you know, then you get also to trust his love. And because you have fallen in love with your God or with this God, then you're like, I will do whatever it takes to promote what my God wants, to profit my Father, to profit the kingdom. So, I hope this encourages you today. Is there something that God has called you to do? It may look huge and big, but look beyond the fear and trust his presence, trust his power to lead you through it, to lead you and guide you through it. It is only then that you will profit the master and profit the kingdom. So God bless you.